All right, I see a good number of participants that just joined us. So let's begin the webinar without further ado. Once again, a very warm welcome to everyone. For those who have attended our webinar before, in case you're wondering, how come it's a very different voice and it's not waifu? My name is Josh. I'm the staff of Blended Concept, and I'll be your co-host for today. As you can see right now, there's a Slido QR code. Feel free to scan, and we'll be having a Q&R later. And feel free to also input your questions. You have any questions for our speaker, Joe Chan, with us. Now, today's topic is such an important one: how we, as parents and caregivers, can support our children emotionally, mentally, and relationally after exams results. The way we respond makes all the difference. Now, before we begin, let me share a quick overview of who we are. Blended Concept is a hybrid learning organization committed to create meaningful, transformative learning experiences. We support individuals and organizations through both classroom and digital learning, and our blended pedagogy shapes how we design and deliver our programs. In recent years, we moved towards a more flexible digital learning so that education becomes more accessible anytime, anywhere, whether at work, in the community, or in schools. To date, we have trained over 1,800 participants across corporate and community sectors, and we are humbled to hold a 4.9-star Google ratings with a 95% satisfaction score. We're also recognized by NVPC, registered as a social enterprise with RACE, and currently run programs under HPB's Workplace Wellness Outreach Scheme. In addition, we're also appointed training partner of the Singapore Prison Service, supporting both professionals and volunteers. Of course, all this is possible because of our dedicated team of professionals from psychology, counseling, and social work backgrounds, people who bring deep insights into human behavior, resilience, and real-life application to support meaningful change. So now, today we're honored to have our speaker, Joe Chan. Joe is our manhood coach, the founder and director of Arc of Hope Private Limited, and an ICF professional certified coach with a background in social work. We're truly grateful to have Joe with us, and with that, I hand this over to Joe. Now, Joe, over to you.
Now, in this short 1 hour, I will just give you as much as I can, right, in terms of how you can tackle this subject. But before that, let me just quickly introduce myself. So my background is in social work. I've been working with children and youth at risk since 2004. Then I was with Reach Community Services. I started in social work, dealing with the casework, the community programs, running outreach, and so on and so forth. So all this while, I've been dealing with a lot of families, coming together with over tensions around their issues, around their kids, studies, behavior. Some even got into trouble with the law, right? And in fact, even like as of now, I'm still in private coaching. I'm still helping parents deal with their children and helping young people navigating through the different life challenges. A little bit more about me. I'm now based in Chiang Mai, and I'm also Chiang Mai, Thailand, but now I'm here in Singapore. So I'm actually shuffling between Thailand and Singapore, looking at a lot of ways to grow my practice. And one of the ways that I grow myself personally is actually to go into martial arts. So over there, you can see I've been training in Muay Thai and in MMA over the last 2 years. And in this year especially, I've actually even gone into fights. So I fought 3 fights. The one that you see there is just last month in Singapore. So yep, I won 2 and I lost 1. Okay, so now, let me just quickly jump into this subject, right? This is a highly contested subject, and I believe that many parents, you are here because you have something in mind, and something of this topic interests you, right? Whether is it for your own child or whether is it for the young person that you're helping. So can I just invite, what's one word that comes to mind when you think about your child's exam results? Can I just invite you, pop into the Slido, poll? One word. Okay, anxiety, stress, right? Anxiety, stress. Anything else? Anything positive? Doesn't have to be all negative. So, okay, let's give a few more moments. Future. Okay, right. Okay, give it another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right. So a lot of us, I believe, is not just among you guys, but actually among the parents that I've seen and helped. Anxiety, they feel anxious about their child's results because they simply cannot quite put their mind at ease and their heart because they can see that their child is actually performing not as well as they should be, and over time and over the years they have actually seen their results dipping, and some have even like gone into maybe what is Singapore, as we all know, normal academic streams and normal technical streams. So some of this anxiety actually rests heavily on the parents' shoulders, right? Yeah, I can see, right? Future, scared, worry, nervous, right? And especially during milestone period like PSLE, O level, N level, A level, right? All this is like all coming together at once. Sometimes can be quite scary and crazy. Okay, so let's just see how we can tackle, and hopefully during this 1 hour short session, I can just maybe share 1 or 2 ideas with you and even maybe 1 or 2 tips that you can take away and deal with the things that you're facing today. Okay? All right. Now, exam results are emotional, okay? Just to put and set the stage. Exam results are emotional both for parents and actually for the children, for the young person. And this is something that we may not acknowledge, because on the parent side, we can often see and we can hear that they are concerned, they are worried. But then on the young person, on the child's side, sometimes they seem all switched off, right? They are nonchalant, they are like, can't be bothered. So sometimes on the young person's side, we do see that, they are like not exactly caring too much about their results. So how do we kind of like reconcile? And all the more, I just want to point out this, is that even in those moments, how you choose to respond, whether is it as a parent, as an educator, or whether you're just somebody, a volunteer working with a young person, how you choose to respond in those moments actually is very crucial and critical, because it's going to shape and it's going to affect the quality of the relationship. So here, I'm just looking at not just the results. The results is just the tip of the iceberg. Actually, what matters most is the relationship, the kind of connection that you have. Therewith, the results is going to cause that relationship and that communication to have cracked lines, fault lines, and even maybe misunderstanding, conflict. Then you can kind of like guarantee that the next time this subject comes up, this is going to be a very difficult conversation to have with the young person. Okay? So let's take a look first on the parent side of things. What does success mean to you? Yourself individually. Can I invite you to just put into the Slido poll, what does success mean to you? As an individual, probably, you have some ideas, I believe. Money, having lots of money, happiness, right? Being happy, living to one's potential, okay? Safety, carefree, freedom. Just in this topic, right? What does success mean to me? Actually, myself, there's a lot of ideas that, I have, and that idea or that definition has actually shifted over time. So success to me is not really just about climbing the ladder, being successful in your career, in your work. Because at some point in time, I begin to realize that actually all of that is still very surface and superficial. But actually at the end of the day is, what is it that you truly really want? And what is it that you have, that purpose and that meaning? Like what I see some of you, right, you put down being happy with what I have, satisfaction, living the life that I want, having a good job. Yep, of course, the practical side of things is important. Being happy. So all these are important factors. Now, can I just kind of like put it out here that success is not just one dimension. Success is multifaceted. So success needs to happen in all domains of our life. In fact, there are so many domains in relationship, in career, in our professional life, in our personal life, in our physical, in our mental, in our in our family, right, domains. All of this actually needs to be considered when we think about success. And maybe sometimes we have allowed one of those domains to overshadow the other. And that is where sometimes we can get a lot of misalignment. We can have a lot of conflict and friction coming out from there because we have different definition of success. Okay? Loving what you do, feeling accomplished. I love that. All right. Now, for parents, I understand that, a lot of us, we come from maybe difficult backgrounds. We come from, different environments that we were brought up. None of the important thing is that we are not who we are today, right? We don't live in a vacuum. We are who we are today because of our upbringing. A lot of it because of how we were being brought up, right? Our parents introduced to us what does success mean. Because if we don't achieve our PSLE result, if we don't go into a good school, if we don't get into university, we will end up being a road sweeper, right? So that is one of the common idea that's being planted, seeded into our mind subconsciously over time. And that is being reinforced, not just by our parents, but actually by our peers. Because we begin to see, hey, everybody is pushing hard, everybody is chasing. So then we should do the same. Okay? Now, I want us to just take a look, at sometimes some of these expectations of us as parents actually unconsciously and subconsciously goes into our parenting with our young people, into our own kids. And not only the expectations, but along with it, feelings. Are there feelings? Feelings of maybe insecurity, maybe feelings of our own failures, our own struggles in going through that whole education journey and pathway. So in today's session, I hope to address some of this, okay? What motivates us? Yourself as a parent, as an individual, your child as well. The emotions that you carry is not just expectations, but it's emotions that's tied along with it. And the expectations that may be unconsciously influencing the reaction that you have and that you carry. And then finally, how to prepare ourselves with some useful ideas, tips, and skills to hold that space for your child to interact, okay, with us. So now let's take a look at our young person, okay, our children side of story. And it's important to look at that because we're going to look into what are the expectations that they hold, right? We know from the parent side we have, but a lot of us, I believe, is coming from a good place, all right? You want to provide the best future, you want them to keep up, you don't want them to lose out. But it's important to look at the young person's side, our kids. What expectations do they have and do they hold? In fact, do they even have expectations? Are they invited, all right, to actually look at this? Why are they studying so hard, right? Have you even asked them, like, what are you chasing all the A's for? Is there a goal? Is there a reason? Or is it just simply because I told you so? Or is it because everybody is doing it, so you got to chase, right? So clarifying the young person's expectation is actually really, really crucial and critical if you want that young person to be building on their own journey of success rather than you trying to keep pushing, because after some time, whether they're going to respond or react out of fear, out of that conformity, right, it's not going to last. Okay? Now, let's take a look. Let's make a guess, okay? Make a guess, a more intelligent guess in terms of what does success mean to your child. What do you think? Okay? What does success mean to your child, your own kid? Or maybe if you don't have a kid today, what do you think success means to that young person? Retire early? Okay. Scotland, for PSLE, yep, I think that will be the most immediate, all right? PSLE, the O-level, making the family proud, parents happy, being carefree, okay, being the best in her class, doing what they enjoy most, okay, getting into a good school, right? So I guess the idea of not every school is a good school, we need to rethink about that, okay? So getting into a good school, right? Making the parents proud, getting things easy, yeah, having an easier life, right? Getting into a good JC, yep. So you can see, right, and most of the responses here, based on what the audience here has put up, is really still tied to the education institute. Being successful is getting into a particular institute, into a particular school, into a particular track. So the idea of success to most of us actually growing up in Singapore is to be able to make it and to get into the ranks. Even at a very young age, we have already been introduced the idea that in society today, there are different levels. And they need to start young, or rather they are expected to start young, okay? But let me just kind of like take a step back, right? If we kind of like take a step back and just think about, what does success, how should success be taught about, right? To a young person, let's say to a P1 kid, a kid who is just only 7 years old. I have 2 sons, all right? Today they are 13 and 15. So they grew up all the way in the Singapore education system. They gone to, neighborhood school, right? And they just do their best. So for me, my definition of success is slightly different from most parents. Because to me, I don't really care in terms of the school that they go to, as long as I know that certain parameters are put in place. Okay? So for me, it's not, in fact, the school that they go to is just across my block. Okay, and I did not purposely go and shift my house like some parents do, shift house, move house, rent house, just to be beside the school of choice. All right, I didn't do that. So yeah, so let's just take a step back and kind of like suspend, some of these ideas about, what do we think about success and what does our child think about success. And now, let's see, right, in terms of expectations, what are your child's expectations for themselves? And this is an important topic to kind of like think about, because children actually from young, they start to form identity, ideas about who they are. Okay, who they are. And a lot of times, these ideas comes from the surroundings, from the environment. Teachers, parents, their peers, adults that is in their life, significant adults. And a lot of times, if there is no chance for that young person, for that child to start to kind of like interact, okay, in a very healthy manner, that, okay, this is who I am and this is who I want to be, but I can be different. I don't have to conform. I don't have to be the same. And I can kind of like pick and choose based on my own strengths, my own interests, my own likings, preferences. That is the point when, okay, it's going to be a healthy kind of like development. But when they are put into a place where the more that they are not fitting in, they know that they are not performing up to mark, and then they're just trying to keep up to the expectations of whoever that's coming on them, that is not going to be healthy. In the long run, it's just going to suppress, and at some point in time, that misalignment happens. And that is where they go their own ways. They do their own things. Okay? So, this is what we are trying to look at in terms of alignment. So ask ourselves, right? It's not so much of what is right and what is wrong, but it's about alignment. So ourselves as parents, we have expectations, like what we said earlier. And that really, really comes from our past, okay? Who we are because of our upbringing. So we are allowing some of this, perhaps maybe, to sit into the communication, into the expectations that we actually have and hold for our kids. And likewise, for our kids, because of the day and age that they are growing up in today, they have different ideas about who they want to be. Okay, so you must remember that it's not just coming from one source. So a lot of times it's really kind of like just addressing these different sources, okay, getting the alignment in. So to be able to get the alignment, actually there are a few things that we need to consider. So it is not automatic. Okay, alignment doesn't happen automatic. It has to come about through that conversation. We need to engage. We cannot assume. Okay, and misalignment can really is part and parcel, right? There's no two, even twins. Even if let's say you have twins today, they are not the same, right? So the thing is about how do we kind of like get that alignment in, and then recognize that this differences actually creates a lot of conflict, potential conflict. But if you have the skill to really manage the conversation, a lot of these conflicts can be resolved. It can even be avoided, right? So having that difference doesn't mean you always have to end up in frustrations and conflict if you have the skill to resolve it. So one of the things that now I want to just shift away from looking at our expectations now to looking at another important component, which is our emotions, our feelings, okay? Because our feelings and our emotions, actually that makes up a large part of us too. It's not just what we think, it's also how we feel. And what we feel is, of course, tied to what we think. So looking at our emotional landscape, and that emotions is really something that is there all the time, right? I mean, whether you like it or not, we feel. It's just that whether we recognize what we are feeling, we pay attention and we have awareness of what we are feeling. And emotions like worry, fear, pride, frustration, all this sometimes can really get into the way of us responding to our kids. Second of it, if we are able to manage at the early stage, then of course we can catch them, and then before things blow up, that will be good. But sometimes if we are not, then it will snowball, okay? It will just be like a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. So, and the thing is, we never know when it's going to explode, because it's not just us, the parents, but it's also the kids. Our kids will come in kind of like know which buttons to press, and that can sometimes trigger us, and then we end up reacting. Okay, so one time, two time, three time, after some time, our kids will begin to kind of like have a sense that it's not safe anymore to interact, all right, to openly share, to kind of like connect with us over this subject. Because they know the moment they come into this subject or you approach them on this topic, things blow. So children, your kids maybe don't feel safe at all. So therefore, they have shut their communication channel. And then that becomes a problem. So learning to recognize, okay, some of this is actually key. Some ideas I just want to put out here. Pay attention to your non-verbal and your verbal. Okay, how you say, of course, that is one of the most important things you need to pay attention. Your tone, your facial, your body languaging, how you are showing up. When you ask yourself, when you actually step back from the office, when you step back from work, the first thing that you enter into your house or into your home, how do you show up? What do you carry? What's the state? What's your emotional state when you step into the home, right? And then followed by what do you say? All right, what do you say to your kids? So a lot of us as busy working parents, we are not very much aware of how we are connecting. That first impression counts, okay? So when parents, you learn how to recognize those emotional states, learning how to shift and find that the state that you want, you know, to learn how to kind of connect in with your kids, and then learn how to build on that over time, dealing with your own frustrations. Sometimes it's frustrations not because of the kid, it's frustrations because of work, but we are kind of like allowing it to spill over into our own family life. Okay? So this is one thing that you can already start working on, to learn how to respond rather than react. Because when you react, it's almost like you are just allowing some of those landmines that's been laid some is over years, some is like from work, from your whatever past experience with your kid, maybe. So those is like, those experience there is like, is laid there, right? It's dormant, it's just waiting to be triggered. And a lot of times, those experiences are driven by fear, stress, trauma, and a lot of times it happens very quickly and instantaneously. So it's like, because I'm frustrated, therefore I raise my voice. Because you are not giving me the results or do the homework that I asked you to do so, then I get angry. So all of this is reaction. Okay? To move over to learning how to respond is allowing us to be able to take a step back, to pause, to be in the moment, and take a look at the kid, the child who is in front of us today. Who are they? The context that they are facing. What is it that we can kind of like approach the situation with a more responsive kind of attitude and posture, rather than, you know, like just quickly just jumping into solutioning, into asking them to do the work, to go for tuition, etc., etc. So when you learn how to respond, you actually give time and space for alignment, for sharing, for openness to communicate and to share actually what is it that they are really facing, right? And learning how to understand them. That I feel is so much missing, right, in today's world and age. So learning how for ourselves to take that stop, that pause. And if we're able to look at our expectations, our kids' expectations, learning how to regulate, right, in terms of our own emotions. Another piece that I want to just bring to your mind is learning how to understand today's young person, their reality. Okay, so our young people today, we have moved from the various generations. And then today we are moving, we actually evolve and all, right? Basically, things have moved, things have compressed, and a lot of things have actually evolved. So we are not actually living in a modern world now, or growing up in a modern world. We are growing up in a postmodern world. So it's that fast. So some of this, I'm sure you can recognize and you can acknowledge that the young people today, they are actually growing up in a constant digital connected world. Okay, they are in the digital world. They are not using the digital, but they are actually in it. So it's like the moment some of our kids actually they grow up having a device, right? They are already introduced to YouTube. They know what is IG, they know what is TikTok, and all of this is like, it's just all around them, bombarded, right, 24/7. And today's young people also have a very kind of like a different way of defining what success is. Previously, we define success based on what we know, what we can see, right, through media. And those media channels are quite limited. TV, newspaper, magazines, maybe a little bit of, depends on what access they have. But today's, they have access to all kinds of information coming in from social media, digital media, right, through their friends, and it's a very, very quick instant, so they can actually know what is acceptable and what is not. And the other thing is also that pressure going out there, facing that pressure coming in from academic, okay, and also from that social angle, their peers. So they are constantly kind of like evaluating, okay, this evaluation of who I am, this appraisal of who I am I okay, am I accepted? This is actually happening to them all the time. The moment they scroll, the moment they look at, what their friends are doing, and not just their friends, but they are actually following certain influencers. Those influencers are also creating kind of like a certain definition of success, And some of this is because the young person have subscribed to them, right? So they're constantly, therefore, in this time where constantly evaluating, okay? Asking themselves, am I up to mark? Am I meeting it, right? Am I accepted? If I'm not getting the likes, if I'm not getting, the validation, then, oh no, what do I do? So this is happening all the time. So in today's context, the thing is, it's very hard for the young person to disconnect. Face it, okay? It's very hard for the young person to disconnect. So the dilemma is if they connect and then they constantly get all of this coming in at them at lightning speed. I mean, if you imagine yourself in their shoes, what would you feel? Okay? That is today's youth. I just use this simple example, right? The picture on the left, I don't know whether can you recognize, but I can. Okay, so I know that it means to have a computer, a desktop computer like that, right? When the CPU is like, the monitor screen is like so big, and then you have to on the computer, and then you have to wait 5 minutes just for the system to load up and to boot. And then after that, you have to dial into the internet. All right, so I still remember the connecting sound, how it sounds. And I don't know whether maybe some of you may even know I'm talking about diskettes, floppy disks, 5.5 inch, 3.5 inch, right? So we are kind of I've come from that era and that place, but today's young people, it's totally different, right? So they have access to devices, gadgets. Everything is basically at their disposal. And in fact, they have it 24/7. Because if you see whether your kids, are they sleeping with their phone beside them? I believe so. Most of the kids are, right? So when do they disconnect? The moment they fall asleep. When do they connect? The moment they wake up. So, okay, so you see now how they are all connected, right? So the thing is, when we have a generation of young people growing up in this context, it is not about, better or worse, but it's just simply about we are different, okay? So now is learning how to develop that sense of empathy, that sense of understanding that they are living in a different age. So how can we kind of keep up with the developments? I don't expect you and me to keep up with what they are engaged with, all right? I don't think we can. But it's really just having that understanding that it's different. So how do we support somebody who is different from us? And also really them therefore going with a little bit more empathy, that they are just coming out, from this era of digital connection, digital media, and for many, many young people, actually, success is important to them too. I'm sure it is, right? It's just that they may not articulate it. They may not even know how to handle this subject. So, but if there is a safe space for them to really voice out what are they really, really feeling when they see their peers succeed, when they see their, for the matter, their relatives going into that prestigious school while they are just going into some neighborhood schools. How are they feeling? Or even among siblings, when one is shining and then the other one is, neglected, how are they feeling? So if you can just allow that safe space to happen and you create and we facilitate, maybe some of these statements may come up. Like, for example, if I don't do well, I'm not good enough. So they equate performance to self-worth. Everyone seems to be better than me. Okay? That can be their inner script that is running through. All right? So the idea that their thoughts is just constantly reinforcing that everybody else is doing better than me. I can see it. I can, through social media, I can also see it. So to them, that becomes reinforced. Okay? And of course, my parents will be disappointed in me. So all of this is just weighing down on the young person. And if you could, like onion, begin to peel off the different levels, they may begin to show or say and share some of these things. This is actually what they need, okay? And I would just kind of like put it, over this next few points I'm going to just share. These are the things that our young people need. If we're able to kind of like provide them that safe space and peel off layer by layer, just like an onion. Empathy. They need that kind of empathy coming in from us adults, parents, okay? Presence. It's not just bringing them for more holidays. It's not just giving them more devices. No, it's really about, hey, I'm here, all right? I'm here. Even though you're facing whatever you're facing, I'm still here. Calmness. No matter what you score, it's okay. In fact, I've said this to my own son. I don't care if you fail. It's okay, even if you fail. But I'm still looking at what you're doing, all right? If that is the results that you can get, sure, let's celebrate. So I literally actually took my kids out to celebrate after their year-end exams or whatever, and they don't even care whatever grades that they get. So that is that level of calmness that you and I, we need to kind of like think about how to even like show up during those difficult moments. Space, okay? So it's not all the time that's going in, it's also learning how to back off, because there will be times that they need that personal space to process. Remember, all of this is happening for them at lightning speed. So giving them that space is actually also important. Encouragement. Okay, encouragement. Your results don't define you. Okay? Your results don't define you. And I don't know how many of us can really sit with this statement. I know it's hard, okay, coming from a Singapore background. I know the system is there. A lot of narratives is going on to say that, results are everything. But honestly, your results don't define you. I mean, ask yourself, how many of you all even like care about your PSLE results after you leave PSLE, Primary 6? No, right? None of us. So why bother so much about your PSLE result and put so much stress on the kids? Understanding. Let's figure this out together, right? At your own pace. So this is some of the things that I want to just leave with us. Moving on to this final segment, okay, I'm just kind of like hoping that some of this can now give you some ways to think about the situation a little bit different. And now, okay, so what can we do? What can you do? Now that you have looked at your expectations, your emotions, right? Looking at the differences, the expectations that, the kids are really coming in from a different space, time and space. So how can we tackle this practically? So I'm just going to leave us with a few things. Feel free to take and try, all right? Some of it, maybe all of it if you can. Outcome. Learning how to focus on outcomes rather than just looking at what you are expecting, what you are demanding. So being very clear with the outcomes that you hope to achieve. Help your child to clarify, really what do they want? What do they want for themselves? It's not just what you want, but what do they want for themselves? Move the conversation away from academic. For once, okay, for once, can you talk about other things or not? Can you talk about other things? About their interests? Can you talk about their hobbies? Can you talk about their anime? Can you talk about the YouTube that they're watching? Can you? Okay? Encourage children to think beyond the immediate stresses. They are already stressed enough. So why do you want to kind of keep drilling it in? Encourage them. Hey, think about other things. All right? Sometimes they are on their phone. I get it. But maybe they are on their phone because that is also their way of coping with stress. All right? So don't make that subject become another topic of stress and conflict again. Give motivation by focusing on a direction, okay, that they want to move towards. So kind of encourage them to move forward, momentum. These are some questions that you can kind of start thinking about. I don't expect you to pose it straight away and expect an answer from them. But if you can kind of start sitting with some of these questions, what do you hope will happen next from here? All right? Whatever the square, whatever the results, whatever they are getting, right? In fact, next year, for all that, whatever that they're getting, they may be, moving into a certain stream, they may be going into a certain course, or they may even be retained. I have worked too with parents and families and kids who are going to be retained, right? Those are the moments that you need to really think about, okay, what do you hope will happen next from here? When will be a good outcome, looking like for you? Not straight A's, not all the time straight A's. There needs to be time that, whatever they're getting from an F, maybe today, to maybe next is what? D, right? Move up the ladder, right? You don't have to like from an F aspect to an A, no. What matters most to you, okay? Yourself first as a parent. What matters most to you as you move forward? What would help you feel more confident about your next step, right? Guide them, coach them. If you imagine or if we imagine progress, no matter how small, what does that look like? Okay? Somehow it is, right? Taking these two, affirming and action. These two, if you combine it together, it will really help to strengthen, build up the identity of your child, strengthen the communication and the relationship, and really move away from that constant cycle and the repeated pattern of conflict, quarrels, frustration, then walking away in disappointed kind of feelings. And turn some of these into concrete outcomes and goals to work towards. Okay? So affirmation, learning how to build your child's confidence level, focusing on the smallest thing. Sometimes it's not the big things, it's the small things, like then even showing up for that class, for that teacher that they don't like. Do you know that there are children who's not doing well in school because they don't like the teacher? And so what do? Do we kind of like just force them like, you must pay attention, but how about just backing off, right? Have a conversation around like, you're still doing your best. I get it. You don't like this subject. You don't like this teacher. It's difficult to understand, right? But what is one small thing that you can kind of like work on today? And I'm here to support you. So one result doesn't define who you are, all right? Or who you can become, okay? Affirmation. Action. Take small, manageable steps that your child can actually align and buy into. It can really, really start small, okay? Simply by just giving that assignment a try, giving the homework a try, going down to maybe talking to a teacher to just get extra inputs, connecting with a friend to just study together. Whatever the case is, help them to discover actions that they can do to unstuck themselves. Okay, and get these ideas or actions from the child themselves. So it's not you prescribing, giving your advice. No, here is not advice giving. Here is learning how to actually pull out and draw out the steps, the actions, the ideas on what the child thinks can work. And you may be surprised that actually your child is very smart. Okay, they can Google. They can do ChatGPT. They can do a lot of things that I'm sure like you also do, right? So yeah, actions. So some other examples, right? Yeah, so learn how to incorporate some of this. I'm now just giving you some ideas. Hopefully that you can start to incorporate this into your language. Your language will actually determine what will happen. What you say will actually cause things to come alive. So if you want to see life, if you want to see your child actually turn around, you need to learn how to speak into being, okay? And that is not going to come about when you're all angry, frustrated, irritated, and agitated. So you need to learn how to internalize, okay? Some of these ideas, put it into your vocab, turn it into your languaging, change the way you talk, and your child will actually respond differently. Okay, and listening. This is the hardest. Okay, this is the hardest. And I know that it's not easy, but if you learn how to just take a pause, if you are able to do some of those emotional regulation that I mentioned just now, and learning this active listening as a skill, how many of us realize that we actually have got 2 ears and 1 mouth? None of us have got 2 mouths and 1 ear, right? So we are really designed by somehow by God, by divine universe, that we are meant to listen more than we speak. But we have kind of like turned the tables around, and then we forgot, right? Maybe because that's what we've been told, right? What we have experienced. So active listening is really about learning how to listen. And it's not just passive listening. Because in an interaction, in a conversation, there are actually three conversations, three dialogues that's happening. The first dialogue is between the two parties. Okay? I'm speaking to you. You're not speaking back to me. But this is the first conversation. The second dialogue or the second conversation is happening in your head right now as you're listening. Your child who is listening to you also has got an inner dialogue. That is the second conversation. The third conversation happens in my head as the speaker, right? What I'm thinking about as I'm holding this conversation with you. So, active listening is really about the mastery of my dialogue that is going on as I'm communicating. Okay? What am I saying to myself that allows me or facilitate this external dialogue? If I'm constantly distracted, constantly just fixated about a certain inner script and a certain inner dialogue that keeps saying, my son is not doing good, my son is not good enough, my son needs to buck up, my son needs to do this, needs to do that. If I'm constantly just driven by that narrative and that script, imagine what comes out. This external dialogue is going to be messy, right? That inner dialogue is going to affect. Now, guess what happens to the inner dialogue of the child? The child is going to say, my mom don't understand. She's always like that. They are always like that. Why bother? Forget it, right? That will be the inner dialogue of your child. So, active listening is really that skill that you need to take to learn how to still that inner dialogue that you have. Holding back certain reactions, learning to move from reaction to response, and allowing that silence to happen. Learning this skill actually allows your child time to process. If I slow down and if I pause and if I stop, you will have the time and space actually to listen, right? But if I just keep going, you will not have the time and space. So active listening is really, really about that. And there's a skill to be learned. I'm sorry, we are not born with it. So yeah, so we need to do, I need to learn, you need to learn. Okay, now let's do something here. I'm going to just give you a few MCQ kind of questions, right? So I invite you to now give me some response. I've been talking non-stop. So I want to just invite you. Does it ever feel like your child just doesn't care? Okay? So put into the Slido response. Okay, so there are some responses in. Does it feel like your child just doesn't care? Sometimes, okay, sometimes, and yes. Yeah, so there's quite a few of you that says that your child just doesn't care. Okay, right. So may I offer you this perspective? It's not that your son or your child doesn't care. It's because they don't show it. Okay, they don't show it. So here's an iceberg. At the tip of the iceberg, this is what we see. What we can see or what we can sense. Silence, all right? Their body languaging. Or maybe what they say, whatever, I don't care, I'll do it later, okay? Or simply just avoid. So the thing is that our kids doesn't stop caring or did not stop so-called not caring overnight. A lot of times it's really because of what is happening underneath. There are a lot of underlying emotions, perspectives, right? Things that they tell themselves or they think to themselves about this interaction with you as their parent. And a lot of times underneath it, it could be some of these things. Emotional overload, right? Really burnout, sense of inadequacy, trying to just avoid conflict, Because end of the day, remember, these are your own kids that you actually brought into this world, right? I'm sure you love them. Yeah? And I'm sure they love you too. But what probably has happened is that over time, the things have just accumulated. And then they just simply choose to not engage. And when those show that behavior of disengagement actually is also their way of protecting themselves. Think about it. Who wants conflict? I'm sure you don't want, right? So when you actually approach somebody whom you have conflict with or potential conflict, I'm sure you will also kind of like withdraw. You will shell up. You will not want to respond. So think of it, when your child say, I don't know, when the child say whatever, that is their way of coping. Okay? That is their way of coping with what they are really feeling within. So learn how to be creative, therefore, okay, in dealing with some of these situations. So when our youth, okay, now I'm kind of like focusing on teenagers. When teenagers, especially of their age already, right, they are independent and they can choose. So sometimes our teenagers simply just choose to switch off and they show signs of unmotivation, right? They're not motivated, and us constantly just going in and repeat and nag, right? That is not going to work. So learn how to find different ways of re-engagement. Okay, re-engagement. Sometimes it can be really just going away from studies, talking about studies, about homework, about tests, about exam, about tuition. Okay, moving away from that and then giving them that time and space. If they want to game, how about we game together? Okay, if they want to grab with their friends, how about just being curious? You know, what do they do? If they really want that time and space to break, how about trying to understand where are they coming from? Okay, and let them be having that assurance that it's okay, right? Let me know what you need and let's talk about it again when you are ready. Okay? Okay, let's try. Okay, let's practice this. Now I'm gonna give you some scenarios over here and I would like you to choose, okay, which of this response is kind of like more preferred. So your 15-year-old, imagine you have a 15-year-old teenager, and this teenager or this youth tells you, my friends all did better than me, even though I studied as much as they did. I feel useless. Maybe I shouldn't even try next year. Now, I'm sure you also may think to yourself, since when my 15-year-old will tell me like that or talk to me like that, right? So maybe your teenager has already stopped communicating to you. But just imagine, right? Maybe this 15-year-old is now talking to his friend or her friend, all right? So which response do you think you will take? Number one, I understand why you feel that way. What do you think your friends did better while studying? Okay, or you go in and say, you're not useless, everyone struggles sometimes, just try harder next year. All is painful when things don't go how we hope, but what do you want next year to look like if things went better? Okay, so I'm going to just choose, put in your answers and the response. Let's see what we have. Okay, great. It is painful and things don't go how we hope, right? What would you like next year to be? Seems like that is, yeah. Yep. So there is no right or wrong per se, right, in terms of response. But the thing is, learn how to respond and interact in a different manner than what you have been used to. Okay? And therefore to get a different outcome. Another example, let's say your child says, okay, can we not talk about this? I don't want to talk about school or exam right now. I just want to play. What response would be best to keep the door open without pressure? What do you think? I'm here when you're ready. Just tell me when a good time might be. If you don't talk now, when? Right? When are you ever going to do something about this? Let me help. Come, sit down. Okay? Or, fine, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay, so which one will you choose? put in your response and answer. And let's see. Okay, I'm here. When you're ready, just tell me when that might be. Yeah. So learn to give that space, learn to give that assurance, all right? And how you say it also, how you're conveying. And the underlying kind of like tone and emotion that you want to convey is not being judgmental. It's not being demanding, because that is just going to further push them away from what you're trying to share or achieve here. Okay? Right, the second response, I guess it's not going to be very helpful, okay? Because you're just going to cause them to just further kind of like ignore you, because it's a very, very sensitive subject and topic, and they know they're going to get it from you. So learn how to invite them to the table first, rather than just telling them that you need to talk about it. Okay, how about this? Your child says, I don't want you to be disappointed in me. How can we respond in a way that makes them feel safe and supported? Where your child may not say in this manner, okay, but your child may be exhibiting behavior that kind of like shows that, how do you think you can respond in a way that will make them feel safe and supported? Okay, let's see what we have. Give you some few moments. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. I won't be disappointed in you if you have done your best and you're proud of yourself. Right. And I'm okay, right? No matter what the outcome, no matter what the result is. Why you say so, right? I'm always here to support you. Yeah, just being curious about that. It's okay, you don't need validation from me. Your results don't change how I feel about you. You're more than your grades. I'm still proud of you. I know that a lot of us parents, we may not be comfortable, okay? We may not be comfortable to say this even. Try other means to communicate, okay? Write, text, yep. So let's do your best. I'll always be rooting for you. Let's go get some ice cream. Okay. I'm sure you're fair at best. Your results don't define you. Yeah. I'm only ever disappointed in you when you don't show that you're striving for your potential. Okay, that is still a little bit of expectation there, right? In terms of your expectation. Yeah, so see how you can try to steer away from that. To move away from disappointment, expectations, to who they want to be, right? What they can do, no matter how small that step is. I've seen your hard work. I know you did your best. Okay, we're not perfect. Yeah. In fact, I even tell my own kid, my own sons that, see, this is my result. I'm also not all perfect. I also flop my second language. So I show them, like ready, concretely, I build up my PSLE, my primary school report book. I say, here, take a look. This is my results. And then I showed my wife also showed her report book. So we are as open as we can be to our kids, right? So I think let's be open and transparent about this subject and learn how to create that environment of safety. Okay, I think that will be most helpful. All right, okay. Thank you for tuning in today, this afternoon here, end of the week, Friday. I hope that this short session have given you a different perspective of what you can do, what you can think about, how you can maybe approach this subject in a different manner. Okay, so I think if you can stay still, we still have some time. I'm open to have some time Q&A. So I would love to hear from you. And what's one thing that you want to do differently after this sharing? So if I can invite you to just to give you some moments, put in 1 or 2 ideas, 1 or 2 thoughts in terms of what you want to do differently. Okay, give my child space. That's great. That's great. It can be something as simple as small. It doesn't have to be big. Understand better where they are coming from before reacting. Yeah. Take time. Okay? Take time. More listening. More listening. Create space for them to share openly. Think of when are the best time to do that. Small affirming talks. Yeah, start small. All right? Don't have to be long talks. Walk together. Love that. Listen, acknowledge, talk less. Slowly, care more, expect less. Yeah. Learn to listen to them. Affirm them for all their achievements. By the way, achievements doesn't only have to be academic. It can be anything, right? Even when they did well in their game, video game, even when they do well in their sports, when they do well with their friends, right? All of this you can affirm. Continue loving them, right? Be there. Yeah. I think if not for anything, even if you don't do anything, just simply being there is already a gift, a beautiful gift. Okay, spend time being there, be open, right? Thank you for your lovely reflection. I'm glad that you are all able to do some of this. Okay, now, just want to end off with this, some more things in terms of what you can think about. If you would like to take a step further, okay, and really take a step to really learn, equip, and see what you can do to interact with your loved ones, with your family, with your kids differently, there are 2 courses over here that I run. So I would love to have you come in, right? Spend 2 days or so learning together to interact. Let's learn from each other and pick up some skills in terms of mentoring, in terms of coaching young people. So this is where I will share frameworks, ideas, theories, etc. And we have lots of role play. Okay? Thank you so much for your time, precious time this afternoon. And now we have this, and I'm going to pass it back to Josh over here.
All right, thank you so much, Joe, for your wonderful sharing. I think that was a very insightful webinar. I hope you guys out there enjoys it. So right now, we're just going to open the floor to all your questions. Feel free to submit your questions on the QR on the Slido that you've seen earlier on. Feel free to pop any questions, all right? Any questions that you have, any concerns that you have with your child, Joe would be very happy to answer for you. So like mine, you can submit your questions. Basically, right now, just to show a little bit. At Dana Concept, we partner with organizations, schools, and community groups to design customized parenting, youth development, and well-being programs. Well, if your organization is looking to support programs, staff, or young people through workshops or training, be very happy to explore what might best suits your needs. So feel free to reach out to either me or Waifu directly, as you can see over there. Scan the QR code, fill up the corporate outreach consent form, and basically you can see the contact numbers over there, my emails there, Waifu's emails there. Feel free to contact any of us, and we're very happy to get back to you. With that being said, let's move on to the next question. So right now, Joe, now we'll open up for the Q&A.
Okay.
So let's say let's go for the first question. All right. So what tends to go wrong for parents balancing encouragement and expectations, and how can they avoid these pitfalls? What do you have for this?
Okay, so what tends to go wrong is parents tend to go into solutioning very quickly, in fact, too quickly, right? So they are really trying to focus on solutioning, and then it's actually targeting or it's actually meeting their expectations. So think about how you can care before you want to move into the action aspect of things. Okay? Yep.
All right. So now, that's a very good answer. So okay, now for the next question, right? So somebody asked, what if the child is the one that's putting pressure on themselves to do well for the exam instead of their parents? What do you think there?
I feel that is okay if your child is able to regulate. Okay, is able to regulate. So just like we talk about emotional regulation for the parents, in fact, for the child too, there are also needs that they have, and it needs to be balanced, all right, so that certain area and aspect is not compromised. And it would be good to actually encourage them to have a conversation with somebody, right? Really just to talk through where are those pressures coming in from and how are they dealing with it. Some pressure is good because with pressure we can perform, right? But constant state of pressure, that may not be too good.
Wow. So yeah, I totally can relate what you feel. So basically, right, the next question pretty much also resonates with me as well. Like, my parents used to always put a lot of pressure on me, especially if I don't do well.
Yeah.
And then they often keep saying, why can't you do better like your cousins did? So I'm sure we all get that, right? And there are times where I felt like, oh my God, I wish my parents were there to do that. So in this case, right, this question says, how do they repair trust with their children if the past relationship was always very harsh and critical?
Well, start from what you can control. And really, what you can control is your response and your reaction, and take ownership. Okay, take ownership. Start from, because it's really two parties. Okay, this relationship is a two-party thing. It's not just the child, but it's us and the child. So if we want to look at repairing this relationship, start from us taking ownership over what we need to work on to be a better communicator, to be a better listener, to learn how to connect. Maybe we have never really thought about how to connect as a parent. How do we want to show care? How do we want to show concern? Maybe we have never really thought about that, right? So now it's not too late. I want to just encourage us, it's not too late to start now. Yeah.
That's a very good one. Thank you. So now here's the next one. One participant was saying, okay, my child is always very stressed by exams and it affects their sleeping and eating. I can totally relate. When I was having, I said, I can't even sleep. So I try not to put pressure on them, but they still get stressed. So what do you say to that?
I think it's also something related to the earlier question, right? That if your child is goal-driven, okay? So I'm assuming that this child is really goal-driven. They know what they want. They aim for what they want. In fact, myself, I'm like that, right? So I know I want to be the top 3 in class. So of course I would like stay up late and all this and study and so on. And I did get the results that I want, right? But sometimes it's about having that adult, having that loved one coming alongside them and just letting them know, hey, whenever you need anything, I'm here. Okay, it's something that you are kind of like stressing up about, talk about it, I'm here too. So it's really about just creating that space, that platform to connect with them and pay attention to their needs. All right.
All right. So basically, in this question from another person, how do I connect with my child if they're unwilling to open up to me and have a conversation, which just now you mentioned earlier in the webinar, right? So you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
So they are unwilling, the tip of the iceberg, remember, right? So that behavior is showing up. Now, it's now really about engagement. So re-engagement, finding opportunities and ways on which, whereby the communication channel can kind of like be repaired. So they are maybe not willing to open up. Could it be because you are not listening? So it takes two hands to clap, right? In that sense. So sometimes it's about your listening. Sometimes it's about the way you are connecting. Sometimes it's about how you are showing up. So all of these factors come into play. And I think as parents, learning how to connect, taking up some more of these ideas, skill set, having practices, role plays, I think that will be really useful and helpful.
I can understand that because usually when I can recall, right, back then when I wasn't not doing well in my exam, I think I remember I failed one exam. I was so scared, obviously, but it's like, one is already it's a huge thing. All right, and given our parents our time, right, the parents always keep putting a lot of pressures on us. And sometimes when we feel that we're not doing good enough, there are often times where we will retreat in the corner and we will actually feel very condemned. So right now with this new age and, with this new parenting skills, I think, I'm sure, all children out there will be so blessed and, parents continue to keep loving them no matter what. Yeah. So we're coming to the last couple of questions. So let's go on to this one. If you had already messed up parenting in the past, okay, what are the ways to actually reboot or restart?
Start now. I mean, just simply start where you are at. Okay. I mean, none of us come from perfect family, right? So don't think too much about it. Even myself, right? There are things that we are not perfect. So definitely there are things that we need to work on. So start working on things that you want to be better in. Okay, get help if you feel that it's really a bit beyond you. You don't know what to do. Go for some courses, training, right? Just simply reach out to what is available to you and don't keep it to yourself. Yeah, in fact, reach out, tap into resources that is out there today.
Yeah. Oh, so we actually have quite a few more questions popped up. Okay, no worries. So let's try to go through them. So, okay, this one person was asking, like, how do I communicate with my kids when they have their own friends to talk to instead of me? I think some parents can really be like that, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Find time, okay? Find avenues to connect with them. I mean, if your kids is today already 15, 16, 17 years old, and they are not talking to their friends and all the time talking to you, I'm worried. It shouldn't be that way, it should be the other way around. So if they are at that teenage adolescence age, it is normal. In fact, they need to socialize because they need to launch off. They need to start building up their own identity. It is part of journeying, transiting into young adulthood. Okay? So if they are not talking to their friends, I'm worried. But if they're not talking to you enough, then it's about finding time, creating time, quality. Okay, quality time that you can still connect back, allowing them to recharge, reconnect back to home base. Yeah.
Okay, so now the next question, right, totally relate to current topics. I'm sure you all have read in the newspaper, in the articles, right, saying that Australian government recently just banned social media for all minors.
Yeah.
So, given this question is very, very important. So, do you actually think that social media use should be restricted? And since social media can be a source of comparison and stress, especially with this given
Right.
day and age of the adult, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm of a mixed view on this because I know the consequences and the effects of social media. Right? I'm sure we all do. The consumption of it, overconsumption, sometimes an overindulgence can have its effects. But the thing is, how much can we control? And if we are coming from that angle of controlling, restricting, I mean, how helpful is that? Because we're not really teaching responsibility, self-regulation on the young person. So I would rather come from the angle of learning how to find that common ground with them, having that open conversation with them, being very open and transparent that, do they think that this is a little bit too much? And then getting them to really make decision, take ownership for themselves. Because if they can do this now and they do it well, next time their own kids, I mean, I cannot imagine, or maybe in 50, 60 years time, is totally another crazy era of whatever. So it's really about giving them that skill, not removing that opportunity for them to learn. Yeah, learn how to manage, discipline. Yeah, it's all part and parcel of growing up.
So like passing from our parents to us and then to our future kids, right? Now, coming to the last question, it says that it's not that our parents in the past, in our generations, don't love us. But because how the way we turn up, so why can't we use the same methods for our kids? So do you think this method actually works, or perhaps this is something that you might think might do differently?
I mean, if you can agree that our past generation and the generation today is different, okay? So it's like we're talking about different times altogether. So growing up in previous generations and growing up in today's generation, the context is different. Okay, so I mean, we cannot just impose, okay, the same kind of standard or the same kind of living and growing up kind of expectations on today's young people. So we need to learn how to evolve with time and come in from the angle that we are open. Okay, we are open. We are learning how to adapt. I think this is really part and parcel of how we need to continue to evolve. We need to continue to learn how to mature with times. Yeah.
So with that being said, that was a final question. So thank you so much. We've come to the end of our webinar. And for those of you who have stayed with us to this end, sorry, we actually kind of overstretched a bit the time a little bit, but we appreciate you so much for attending this webinar. And for this, from all of us at Blender Concept, we would like to wish everyone a very advanced Merry Christmas. Have a blessed 2026. We'll see you next year for our next webinar. Take care. Bye.
Bye.